All right, all right. Welcome to chapter 8. Do you want to be right or do you want to be rich? This one is like all up in my face, right? Because one of my biggest problems was ambition and greed. And like I said before, it's not like a Lambo, Rolex, Gucci kind of greed. It's really just a wanting to make sure I can provide for those around me and that I'm responsible for. Okay. But an unchecked amount of ambition and greed like that has definitely sent me down the wrong path when it comes to day trading. So let's talk about it. Okay. And I did pause my game to be here. So let's get this on. All right. Chapter 8 hits the ego hard in the best way. Okay. This was definitely a punch to my ego. I didn't even realize I had an ego like this. I would kind of say I'm like, I mean, you ask people around me, you'd say, oh, yeah, he's a humble guy. He's a nice guy. Man, when it came to day trading, I was greedy, man. Goodness sakes. Okay, so Tendler challenges one of the biggest mental blocks in trading, the desire to be right. I'm gonna try not to go off on too many tangents because this was my biggest problem. More than a desire to be profitable. You may say you're focused on making money, dot 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 dot, but deep down, many traders trade to validate their egos, their bias, or analysis. Okay. How good does it feel to be like, oh man, my daily bias is bullish. Ooh, look at this turtle soup. Ooh, it's going bullish. Nice. Let me take a long. Yeah, how's that feel? Okay. That is petting some serious ego. Okay. And I've dealt with this. I usually don't share P&L very often because I don't want to play with my ego, right? I don't live trade because I don't want my ego played with, right? Because I mean I work with some guys, excuse me, that do live trading, and their egos get stroked a lot, man. You know, like I know that for me that's just an issue. So whatever, I just don't play with it. Okay, you hold a loser because you're sure it'll turn in your favor, right? You refuse to flip bias because you know this level will hold. Okay, that one right there. I will flip my bias. I don't even have a daily bias anymore now. I will have a kind of a trend bias, sure. Market maker model bias, sure. But short term, coming off of time based liquidity, I'm gonna pay attention to exactly what the price action is telling me live. Okay, I'm not gonna, I've literally, I've had it go bullish into a time based liquidity, range a little bit, and then I take a long off that. People are like, "You're longing. You were watching this level. I thought you were going to short it." Be like, well, I didn't know if I was going to long or short until we got there. I was like, dude, it's all bullish order flow. So yeah, I took a long. I was looking for a short, but it never told me. Okay, but that was me having to be okay with being wrong. All right. You get emotional when you're wrong, not because of the loss, because your ego took a hit. Yeah. All right. The need to be right leads to bigger losses, overconfidence, hesitation, misreversals, and mental spiral after a bad call. Okay. 100% me. 100% guys. 100%. All right. I usually never miss the reversal because I would take 6 trades to make sure my reversal was correct. And guess what? If you do that many, you make back some of your profit, but not all of it. You're like, man, if I would have just taken the one trade I knew I should have. Okay. That was me. All right. So I think I've said this in the last bunch of videos, but extreme ownership by Jocko really helped me to accept my losses and accept my wins as well without being overconfident or egotistical and just, allow my edge to play out, which was really helpful to me. Okay, the fix is detached from being right and attached to executing well. Hold on, we're going to make an edit. I'm not kidding. Okay, this pretty much fixed me. Okay, I'm not perfect. Detached detached from being right and attached to executing well. Okay, I if I take a rando trade and it wins, that's an L for me. I'm like, why? No, don't. My journal is like, no, 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 don't do that again. But it was a winner. No, 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 no. I don't care. No, it was not your edge. It was not your trade. Shouldn't have been there. And then I take a actual edge trade and it loses. Well, that's a W. Okay. I'm excited for that because I did what I was supposed to and I executed well. So what? It took a loss. Who cares? That's a hard mind frame to have, but I'm telling you it's doable. Okay. So stop focusing on your P&L, stop focusing on how much money you're making, and start focusing on the process. Okay. If you need help, like with a process, you can join my Discord down below. You can go on YouTube, and as long as you follow a half decent mentor, okay, I know they're hard to find. You can go to Casper SMC. You can go to Jason Casper. I think Jade Cap's another good. There's some out there that actually give legitimate, um, edges, right? Trade plans that work. Okay. And then once you have one like that, you fall in love with it, and then you attach yourself to executing that edge correctly, and everything else falls in place. I know guys who trade EMA that do successful. I know guys who trade basic patterns and flags and bull flags and descending wedges and all this stuff, and he does fantastic. He makes a killing. All right. And I know people who trade market cipher and exo charts and PTO chart, and they all do really well. And they're all very, 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 very different styles. But why? It's because they're not attached to being right. They're not attached to calling every move. They're not attached to I should be in because there's a big giant green candle or big red candle that I should be shorting. They're attached to executing whatever strategy they're using, and they're attached to executing it well. There you go. That's the answer. I'm telling you. I don't care what your edge is. Trend lines. Tori trades. She trades trend lines. Okay. And she does better than me. Like, I don't know Tori, but I know a lot of these other ones very personally on a very personal level. They do very well, and their strategies are stupid simple. All right. So, key takeaways. The desire to be right is ego driven and expensive. Okay. If you're here to pet your ego, I hope you're rich now. I hope you are rich right now where you sit, because you're going to spend a lot of money pouring into your ego. That's not why we're here. Okay. The one thing I want to say, it's a little bit off topic, but not too far. Don't come to the market to make yourself feel better. If you're having a bad day at work or having a bad day in your relationships around you, don't say, I'm going to go trade so I can feel better. Don't do that. Okay. And don't trade to boost your ego. It's too expensive. All right. Profitable trading doesn't care if your prediction is correct, only if your execution is disciplined. Okay. I've had people that like put out charts and they're like, I called that. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I call the market all the time. I don't know. Did you execute your trade plan well? It wasn't my trade plan, but I longed it because I predicted where the market was going. That, to me, that's a dangerous game. Okay, maybe there are some people out there that can do this, but from what I've seen, that is not what these 6-7 figure people that I talk to are doing. They're not predicting, in a sense. They are executing their disciplined trade plan. Okay, being wrong is a part of trading. I have to learn to be wrong. 40 to 50% of the time, I have to learn to be wrong, and I have to be okay with that. Okay. It's kind of funny. I used to have a higher win rate because I think, my ego couldn't handle a 50% win rate. Now that I'm okay with a 50% win rate, I make more money. I win less, I make more. I don't know what to tell you. It's very confusing to me, but numbers don't lie. All right. Being wrong is a part of trading. The sooner you accept that, the faster you will grow. Best Loser Wins by Tom Hogard. Go check it out. Reframing losses as data and not identity. Remove emotional weight. Okay, this removes emotional weight. So being an egotistical trader, which I didn't really realize I was, but here I am. I was very egotistical. Um, I started reframing my losses at looking at them as data and not identity. I felt like if I'm like, oh, I'm a loser today, because I took a loss, I felt like a loser, and I'm like, that's silly. If that's the case, I mean, the song goes, "I'm a loser, baby, 50% of the time." Like that's hard to swallow. All right, it's usually I close about like 57 to 64 ish, 63 ish percent, right in the green. So, um, I can at least say my ego, you're wrong more than often than not. Stroke that ego. All right, I'm gonna take a loss tomorrow. Watch what happens. But that removes the emotional weight. Okay, your trade plan. You should have a good idea ish of how often you lose and win. And then when you lose, who cares? Did you execute your plan well? Yes, I did. W for you. Gold stars, cookies, ice cream. We've talked about it, right? All right, action steps. Expose your need to be right triggers. Ask, when do I double down just to prove my bias? When do I hold losers too long because I want to be right eventually? Okay. If you're one who moves your stop loss far away, far away, far away, I think that is one of the most destructive habits you can have. Um, I don't believe in DCAing per se. It doesn't mean that if I enter along with my stop loss and we come down, it doesn't mean I won't add to my trade. Um, but I will not move my stop loss. Okay. Because sometimes it comes down and this happens enough for me to know in my setup that maybe I can add a con and it'll be okay. And I may be adding like $50, $100 risk because I don't risk that much, or $200 risk, whatever. That if I lose that, it's not such a big deal, right? And but if I win it, the R&R of that contract I'm adding outweighs. But that's a very specific kind of thing. But if you're moving your stop loss because you can't handle getting hit in the face with an L, that's a hard thing to deal with, and I understand. Create an execution is greater than predictions mantra. Okay, I don't get paid to be right. I get paid to follow my edge. My job is to trade well, not to guess right. Right or wrong means nothing. Only consistent execution matters. These are the kinds of things you can say to yourself to rewire your brain to think profitably, basically, right? So log right but wrong trades. Okay. Start tracking times when you predicted direction correctly but still lose money. This helps proves that being right without discipline still fails. Okay. Celebrate good execution, not just wins. This game changer. Celebrate good executions and not wins. Not wins. Not just wins. Not wins. You know what? Not wins. Just don't even celebrate wins. You don't celebrate your losses, do you? Well, you might. If it's a good execution, you should. Okay. So celebrate good executions and then just let the W's and L's play out. All right. And if you have a good edge, it'll play out and you'll win. All right. After a session, ask myself, did I follow my rules? Did I execute cleanly when invalidated? So if you exit cleanly when it's invalidated, that's why my stop loss is on the chart. I don't care. It's there. When it gets hit, yeah, sometimes I feel the like emotional, like, oh, bummers, but I just let it go. Okay. Did I avoid trading just to prove myself? I you guys have no idea. I didn't realize I was such an ego-driven trader, but yep. And this is something I've been dealing with for a long time. So I've known I've been an ego trader. I stopped sharing P&L like 2 years ago in Discords. Sometimes in my own Discord I'll share some stuff, but I do like a 50-50 rule. Like here's a loss, here's a win, here's a loss, here's a win. Keeps me from, feeding my ego. Reward those wins even if the P&L is red. That's right. If you executed well, you should celebrate. All right, so let's get to some encouragement here. Letting go of the need to be right is one of the most freeing things you can do as a trader. No joke. Okay. If you want to talk about a very personal chapter, it's this one. This is probably the fifth or sixth time I've read through this chapter because of this. Because when I first read it, I'm like, I'm gonna read that again, right? And then I went through the book a second time, and I'm like, man, it's still a problem. I'm gonna read that again. All right. I think I was just like weighing my success of being a trader on my identity. So it's tough. It's tough. But when you recognize this and you can start to do something about it, it is absolutely freeing. It removes the pressure, it sharpens focus, and allows you to adapt without shame. This is so true because this right here is so big, the shame, right? The losses, the I've blown my account. I mean, I blew an account and I was making YouTube videos and I wanted to be open and honest about it. It took me 3 days to get the courage to put the video out saying, "Wow, I suck. Look at the account I blew." That's because sometimes I still have an ego. That's why you won't see me on here petting my ego. I mean, I joke about it, but I won't do it because I know it'll my head'll swell big time. That's why I got to be careful with win streaks as well, because I will get overconfident and I'll feel like, you can't stop me, son. You can't stop me. And I get all crazy and I lose it. It's like, nah, we ain't going to do that. We're just here to execute. All right. You are not here to impress the market. You are here to out execute your past self, one decision at a time. You don't have to fix yourself overnight immediately. Okay? Relax. This takes time. Navy SEALs don't have a 15-day, 30-day program that prep them for going overseas and kicking down the doors of terrorists. Okay? It's a long process. All right? Let go of the ego, pick up the edge. Let go of the ego, pick up the edge. Let go of your ego, pick up your edge, and keep trading like a professional. Okay? I mean, Tom Hogarth seems like he's completely an emotionalist trader, which I know he's not because he says he's not, but he seems like it because he has trained himself to be a professional, and that's why he can risk like $3,500 per tick. I'm like, what? That's crazy. Because of my greed, I have actually brought down my risk quite a bit. And yeah, I'm not making as much money, but I'm making money, right? And in my mind, I'm like, oh, I could definitely, we can up that risk. Let me tell you, make some more money here. But I'm trying to be smart. I'm trying to train myself behaviorally, and I can see it's paying off. All right. So I hope this has been encouragement. I really wish you guys the best in your trading. You can drop comments down below, like, subscribe, all that wonderful stuff. I do have a free Discord below if you'd like. You can join, ask questions. I don't have any kind of affiliates or anything right now. Just interested in having good, healthy conversations with people to encourage, because as I'm poured into, I want to pour out on other people. That way, like I said, this industry is hard enough trying to do it alone or trying to do it with people who act like they know what they're doing and they don't. So anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one.